Hi everyone, it's Tammy with Shabby Fabrics. I have the most beautiful quilt today to show you. This is the Fruit of the Spirit framed panel quilt. We took the collection from Jason Yenter with In the Beginning Fabrics. The collection name is Ethereal. It's just so calming. The blue tones are just beautiful and so calming. This is the perfect quilt for this framed panel. The blocks that we're going to use are from Block Party Studios. It's a panel that we're cutting apart. I'm going to show you how to do that. I love the individual devotions. They're just so beautiful. We decided to take the name of the panel, which is Fruit of the Spirit, and actually put that in the border. It just is perfect framework for this quilt. I think this would make a beautiful gift. It's a great source of inspiration for uplifting daily devotions. I can think of several people I love that I would like to make this quilt for. So let me show you a little bit more about how to do that. So the backing is an add-on for this quilt. It's so beautiful. I love this fabric. It's one of my favorite fabrics in the collection. This is the backing option for this quilt. We have kits available, but of course we only have a limited number of kits. The kit will come with this pattern. It's included, or if you want to make this out of fabric that you already have, you can just buy the pattern. The pattern is available. Also, the panels are available from Block Party Studios. The Fruit of the Spirit panels are available from Block Party Studios. That would work as well if you want to just pick those up. I'm going to talk a little bit about some notions that I'm going to be showing you today. The Perfect 5 ruler. This is Creative Grids. We're going to be using this a lot to fussy cut the panels with. We're going to use the 9.5-inch square Creative Grids ruler. We're going to square our blocks up with that. It works beautifully. I'm using the Creative Grids spinning mat. This is the rotating mat. Love the way it spins. This is an amazing product. This, we're going to give it a little bit of a workout today. I've got some Wonder Clips on my table. You're going to use those when you're doing the binding. I have a blade saver. A blade saver we're going to use when you're chaining your blocks together. It just quickly and easily clips your blocks apart. I do have my Aurifil thread set on. I love my Aurifil thread. It's truly what we use 100% of the time on the BERNINAs in the sewing studio upstairs, and I will be using that today. I have the white on. If you don't want to buy a bunch of individual spools of Aurifil, I suggest you get the Carrera black and white thread set. It comes with 3 spools, black, white, and gray. Perfect for what you need for piecing quilts. I'm using a Schmetz top stitch needle, a size 80-12. I like that. We're going through multiple layers with this panel. It works just great. Olfa rotary cutter, of course, and then I do recommend an extra blade. We're going to be doing some fussy cutting with rulers, and having that blade skip is just not what you want. You want that blade to just run smooth right across that ruler. So I recommend a fresh blade if you haven't replaced your blade in a while. Of course, I have my clover seam ripper. We're going to hope I don't need that today, but you never know. I like to have it close at hand. My little Karen K. Buckley scissors I like to snip my threads with. And of course, the star is my Clover Extra Fine Patchwork pins. Without these, I would be lost. I love these pins. And the magnetic pin cushion hangs onto stuff and makes cleanup a breeze if you spill them. So, with all that, let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to clean this up and we are going to get started. So I have here a panel that I have taken a couple of panels out of already, but I thought that you get the idea. This would have 3 more panels on it when you receive it. I did not want to cut up more panels to show you that on camera. So I'm going to leave the top banner here. They have these little hash marks up here. I'm going to leave this top banner intact because we're going to fussy cut that for the border at the header of the quilt. So we're going to take our Perfect 5 ruler. I'm going to set this on here. I'm going to use the hash marks, but they're not perfect. I like things perfect. So if you cut this out using just the hash marks and a straight edge, you'll get very close to 5 by 5, but they're not going to be exact. In a quilt, in a block like this, we want to have our panel in the center to start out at 5 inches. 5 by 5 is what you want to start at. It's just going to make the whole block come out better at the end. So let's do that. So I have a perfect 5. I'm going to line this up, and you can see on here, I know the overhead can pick this up, where this hash mark is down here and my ruler is up here. This one's pretty close to right on. You can see that. I did press this panel out with a little bit of magic sizing and an iron before I started, because they come all folded up. So of course, to get it to be all nice and smooth, I did use some sizing on that. I did not pre-wash this panel though. So we're going to make a cut, and I'm being careful just to come to the edge of my ruler. I don't want to go past that unless I have to. Okay, now we're turning. All right, and up, and again, I'm going to be very careful at the top because I don't want to cut into this upper banner. To the side and across the top. There we go. So now I know that this is exactly 5 by 5, and I can set that on this mat, and sure enough, it's perfect. That's what I want to start with. Okay, so let me set this aside. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add a frame to this. So I have a light blue frame here and top and bottom, okay? So we're just going to add these right sides together, stitch a 1/4 inch on either side, and then we have this. Now you saw how that word changed? That's because I did this ahead of time, and I just wanted to take one panel and cut a bunch of blocks out. So the word's going to change, but you get the idea. It's the same thing. All right. Patience. There you go. Have patience. It'll all come together. I love that. All right. So we're going to put the top and bottom borders on like this. And I have faithfulness. Yep, I have faith that I am going to get this done correctly. Here we go. All right, so I've done this with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. You can see that on the back. You can also see that I've pressed my seams to the borders, right? All right, so now the next thing I need to do is I need to make sure that this block is squared up to 6 7/8. All right, if it's not 6 7/8, let me set these aside. If it's not 6 7/8, we need to make it 6 7/8. 6 7/8 is kind of a tough place to find. So I'm going to use a square up ruler to do this. And the first thing I'm going to locate on here is I'm going to locate 7 inches by 7 inches. All right? The reason I'm going bigger than 6 7/8 is so that you can find 6 7/8, right? You go to 7 and then back it off 1/8 of an inch, and boom, you're right there, okay? So I go to 7 and I back this off 1/8 of an inch. This block is exactly 6 7/8. I have not touched it. You can see the threads on it. I have not squared this up. This block is exactly 6 7/8 by 6 7/8, so I do not need to trim it. I should also mention this ruler that I'm using. This is one of the original square up rulers that Creative Grids had. This is a 9.5 inch square up ruler. This is an original ruler, and you can see I have an 8.5 inch one here to show you how they have changed the ruler. This is an upgraded version. If you order the 9.5 inch ruler, you're not going to get the original, you're going to get the upgraded version. The upgraded version has more grippy along the outside edge, which is very useful. It has larger dots, and it also has larger circles on it so that you can see exactly where your numbers are. Your even numbers are on white, you turn it around, and now I'm starting with the 1/2 inch, so my 1/2 inch numbers are in black. Very easy to read. This is a great improvement that they made on their square up rulers. I love that. Okay, so I'm not going to touch this block. I am not going to square it up at all. It is 6 7/8 by 6 7/8. All right, so let me set the spinning mat aside. Now let's add the triangles to this block. Let me show you where we're going. See, and I use love for this one because I love how this block looks. All right, so I have, this is where we're going. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put these two triangles on. So let me show you how we do that. Let's cut this in half. Let me take a ruler here. And we're just going to cut that square directly on the diagonal. Now it's really important whenever you deal with a bias edge like this, because we're now sewing a bias edge to this block, that you definitely use magic sizing prior to cutting your squares. You do not want to cut your squares and then decide, oh wait, I should have used magic sizing. That needs to be done first before you cut your squares. All right? All right, let's cut that in half, and I have done that ahead of time. I used a lot of magic sizing on this. I can feel it in the fabric. All right, so we're cutting squares in half. That's what's going on here. And I have all my little squares cut like this. All right? Okay, so let's talk about how we get these on here. The first two squares to go on are right here. So the first thing I need to do is I need to turn my block on point, right? See how this one's on point? See how you have your block, it's laying sideways. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it on point, and now everything is orientated in the correct direction. This is here, this is here, okay? So I'm going to fold my block in half, and I'm just going to finger press this right in the center, and then I'm going to fold it in half again like this, and I'm going to finger press it right in the center. That's all I'm doing. Okay, and that made I made a good crease. I know that you should be able to see that on the camera here. Made a good crease. Okay, so now when I lay this triangle on here, I'm going to take the point of this triangle and I'm going to line it up with that crease because I want this centered. There we go. Okay, so you can see my point is centered on the crease, and we have a little bit excess hanging off on either end, which is just fine. So I'm going to take my favorite pins and I'm going to pin this on here. Now this is bias, remember? So I'm going to use several pins. This is not something I'm just going to take the machine and just sew on just without pinning it, because this bias is going to have a tendency to stretch. The other thing I'm doing is I'm keeping that bias on top of my block. That way it's least likely to stretch. If that feed dogs have a hold of that and you're running this through your machine, you're going to have a tendency to grab a hold of this triangle and pull on it a little bit. You're going to pull it out of shape and it's going to warp and twist on you. All right, so I always keep my bias edges on top. All right, so now let's put this one on the other side, and I'm going to pin this at the same time. I'll move this one out of the way so I can see where this one goes. There we go, just like that. All right, let's give this a few pins of his on this side. There we go. I'm definitely pinning this seam allowance because he's pointing that way, and I know when I come across here, it's going to have a tendency to flip, so that's why I'm putting that pin there to hang on to that seam allowance and remind it needs to stay that way. Okay, so let's go to the machine and stitch this. I'm going to do this with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. All right. All right, let's take our pins out and we're going to get this pressed. All right. So I have a Panasonic iron-on set with me today with a wool pressing mat. I like this Panasonic iron. It gets nice and hot. So I'm setting my seam with that bias edge. Still remember you have bias. I'm also not using steam on this because steam and bias are not friends. That's not going to work out well. So I'm going to just finger press this up like this and then set my iron on here and let the heat of the iron and the wool pressing mat do their job. And just hang on to that for a second. There we go. All right. That looks great. I love that. Okay, now you can see on this block how these corners are poking out away from the block right here. I'm going to take those and I'm actually going to trim those off because I already know when I put the other triangle on to sew, this is going to impede my vision where my seam allowance is marked on my machine. I'm not going to be able to see it. So I'm basically sewing blind. I don't like that. I'm going to take these triangles off of here so I can see where I'm going. So I'm just going to trim both sides of them really quick here. Just like that. Okay. Beautiful. All right. Oh, this is beautiful. All right, so let's take our other triangles on here. So I have this one. Again, I'm centering this on my crease. I can still see my crease there. Now you can see how beautiful this fits right here. You see that? And this little divot is at exactly 1/4 of an inch. Oh, I love it when a block comes together like that. So again, pins are your friend. Again, I have my bias edges on top. Very aware of that bias edge. All right, and this beautiful teal is going to go on the bottom here. We just mixed ours up. We cut all of our triangles and we just mixed them up and tried to get every block different. That's a challenge sometimes. You could do all your blocks the same. You can do whatever you like on your quilt. All right, we've got this pinned together here. Okay, here we go. I'm going to go 1/4 inch here to here and here to here. And I'll see you back at the ironing board. All right, let's get the pins out. Kind of throwing pins around here. There we go. All right. So again, I'm going to heat this seam up and finger press it over very carefully. That looks great. The next one, same thing. Oh, these are just some of my favorite colors all together. I just love that. Okay, beautiful. All right, so the next thing, we're going to trim our block up. So I'm going to grab my spinning mat back, kind of clear a little space here for that. Here we go. All right, so we're going to use our 9.5 inch ruler, 9.5 inch square. I'm going to set it on here. And I'm going to line up my 1/4 inch marks all the way around with the points in this block. So I'm lining up my 1/4 inch with all of my points all the way around. So you can see I'm taking off quite a bit. I'm taking off probably 1/4 of an inch. That's all right. That's exactly what I want. I want to be able to square this block up. So these points, when you catch this with your sashing, they're perfect. That's the goal. All right, I think this is exactly where I want this. So here we go. I love not having to pick up my block or my ruler. That spinning mat really shines here. This is an amazing tool. And one more time. Just like that. There we go. So now you would take your blocks, you put them together with sashing, you'd add your borders. It will work just fine for you. We had faith we'd get it done, and it's perfect, just like that. So thank you so much for joining me today for this tutorial. I really enjoyed being here and showing you this and bring you this amazing, beautiful quilt. I'll see you again on another Shabby Fabrics tutorial.